Although much of the canon information about the Mandalorian-Jedi War is still up in the air, here's what we know so far. This is the history of the Mandalorian-Jedi War explained. As odd as it sounds, the war started because the Mandalorians did not understand the Jedi when they first encountered them. Even at the end of The Mandalorian Season 1, the Armorer describes the Jedi as an order of sorcerers. Due to this lack of understanding, the Mandalorians created weapons and armor to better combat these mysterious new opponents. In 2017, comicbook.com interviewed Dave Filoni about how the Star Wars Rebels episode, Trials of the Darksaber, referenced the Mandalorian-Jedi War. He explained, "The Mandalorian-Jedi War that I have in my mind is very much derived from the oldest style of thinking of Mandalorians, which was that their weapons, their arsenal, their technology had a massive increase once they collided with the Jedi and found these Force-wielding people that had abilities they didn't understand." More and more animosity occurred between the Mandalorians and Jedi once the latter group started interfering with the former's Crusades. The 2016 reference book Star Wars Aliens of the Galaxy details how a group of sword-wielding Mandalorians known as the Mandalorian Crusaders carried out a series of conquests across the galaxy. While in the Inner Rim, the Crusaders devastated a planet called Abduria out of contempt for the native Abdurians, who they viewed as dishonorable cowards. The Mandalorian Crusaders also fought the Jedi at some point during these missions. Murals of the Mandalorian Crusaders fighting the Jedi were created and can be seen in a few episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars, as well as one episode of Star Wars Rebels. Even though Mandalorians and Jedi were at one point sworn enemies, a member of the former group did create a lightsaber of his own. That member was Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian ever inducted into the Jedi Order. Tar created a unique black-colored lightsaber called the Darksaber during his time as a Jedi. After he died, the Jedi kept the saber in the Jedi Temple, but during the fall of the Old Republic, members of House Vizsla raided that temple and reclaimed the saber. They used it to unite their people and defeat anyone who opposed them, including Jedi. The Darksaber would become a symbol of power to the Mandalorians and was used to unite them before and after the Mandalorian-Jedi War. The Mandalorian-Jedi War became so heated that near the end of their wars, the Mandalorians turned Concordia, the moon of their homeworld, into a mining base. Although the Mandalorians put up a good fight against the Jedi, it was not enough to save their homeworld. The Mandalorian-Jedi War ended with a final battle which caused a cataclysm that scorched much of Mandalore into a white, uninhabitable wasteland. The Jedi won the war, but not all was lost for the Mandalorians as they created hermetically sealed domed cities on Mandalore's surface. Years after the Mandalorian-Jedi War ended, many Mandalorians, including Satine Kryze, did not want to continue the cycle of violence that almost destroyed their planet. They formed a peaceful movement called the New Mandalorians. 42 years before the Battle of Yavin, a civil war broke out between the New Mandalorians and the martial traditionalists who both sought control for Mandalore. The death toll during this war was a primary reason why Satine became a pacifist for the rest of her life. As Duchess, Satine rebuilt Mandalore, and it thrived under her leadership for 20 years. Mandalore went on to become an active participant in the Senate of the Galactic Republic while still remaining neutral throughout the majority of the Clone Wars. Of course, many Mandalorians still opposed the new Mandalorians' pacifist ideals and wanted to return Mandalore to its warrior ways. These same Mandalorians would go on to form the terrorist organization Death Watch under the leadership of Governor Pre Vizsla and Satine's sister, Bo-Katan Kryze. Death Watch was initially aligned with Count Dooku and the Separatists, but they parted ways and eventually joined forces with a renegade Sith Lord named Maul to take over Mandalore together. Maul and Vizsla devised a plan to make the new Mandalorians look weak in order to gain the people's trust.
Death Watch is here to save you from these intergalactic gangsters that threaten our great city.
The plan was successfully carried out, and Vizsla declared himself ruler of Mandalore, but he betrayed Maul and imprisoned him. It didn't take long for Maul to escape, which allowed Maul to challenge Vizsla to a duel which he won. After beheading Vizsla with the Darksaber, Maul declared himself the new leader of Death Watch and installed a puppet prime minister while he ruled from the shadows. After becoming ruler of Mandalore, Maul retained the loyalty of most of the members of Death Watch. But some members, such as Bo-Katan, could not accept the idea of an outsider ruling Mandalore and led a resistance against him. In the 7th season of the Clone Wars, Maul's reign is cut short after former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano and Bo-Katan team up to launch a full-scale assault in an attempt to liberate Mandalore from the clutches of the Shadow Collective. Before ordering the other Shadow Collective leaders to go into hiding, Maul is captured but subsequently escapes custody in the wake of Order 66. The 2018 spin-off film, Solo, a Star Wars story, set after the events of The Clone Wars Season 7, reveals that Maul established another crime syndicate called the Crimson Dawn. Even though Bo-Katan and her forces defeated Maul and freed Mandalore from the Shadow Collective, it didn't take long for the Empire to undo all that progress. After Bo-Katan refuses to comply with the Imperial occupation of her homeworld, Clan Saxon betrayed her and swore allegiance to Emperor Palpatine. Fortunately, Bo-Katan joined forces with Clan Ren, the Mandalorian Protectors, and members of the Rebel Alliance to fight back against Clan Saxon. Following this victory, Bo-Katan was given the Darksaber and took up the title of Mandalore, a title assumed by the sole leader of the Mandalorian people. Unfortunately, the Empire would strike back against the remaining Mandalorians in the form of the Great Purge. This event saw the deaths of many Mandalorians across the galaxy, and the Empire stealing massive amounts of Beskar, a metal alloy that Mandalorians use to create their signature armor. In the Season 1 finale of The Mandalorian, the tribe's armorer tells Djarin that he needs to reunite the child with his people. That mission sends Mando on a series of adventures, including one that puts him in direct contact with Bo-Katan and her fellow Mandalorian separatists. Although they don't share Djarin's rigid adherence to the Mandalorian creed, Bo-Katan ultimately helps him on his mission, in exchange for his help in raiding an Imperial ship. Mando is initially led to believe the Separatists are simply trying to steal weapons from the Shattered Empire, but it eventually becomes clear that Bo-Katan is really after the Darksaber, now wielded by Moff Gideon. Living up to her end of the deal, she also tells Djarin where to find a Jedi, telling him to seek out Ahsoka Tano. Mando heads to the planet Corvus, a deforested wasteland where Ahsoka Tano has been waging a war against the brutal reign of a figure known as the Magistrate. Upon Mando's arrival, he's shepherded to an audience with the Magistrate, who offers him a staff made of pure Beskar in exchange for murdering Ahsoka. Instead, he joins forces with Ahsoka, following a brief skirmish when they meet in the Corvus wastelands. Mando offers to help Ahsoka defeat the Magistrate in exchange for her accepting and training the child. As expected, the Magistrate is no match for the duo, but Ahsoka is unable to live up to her end of the deal, telling Mando that she can't train the child. She's able to speak with him via the Force, and learns that his real name is Grogu, and that he was trained on Coruscant before being taken during the fall of the Jedi. But she also discovers a great deal of fear, anger, and darkness in him. And having been close to Anakin Skywalker, she's all too aware of how those feelings can be exploited. Although Ahsoka is unable or unwilling to train Grogu, she offers Mando one other way to fulfill his obligation: take him to the planet Tython, where Grogu may be able to tap into the Force at the site of some ancient temple ruins and establish a connection with another Jedi. In the middle of that process, however, Grogu is kidnapped by Moff Gideon's forces. Mando gathers a crew to overtake Gideon's light cruiser and save the child. After reaching Grogu's cell, Mando battles Gideon. Ultimately, Mando disarms Gideon with the Beskar spear he received from Ahsoka back on Corvus. After taking Grogu and a shackled Gideon to the bridge, Mando offers the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, but she refuses. Gideon clarifies that the Darksaber cannot be given and must be won in combat. Their standoff is interrupted when a Jedi, Luke Skywalker himself, arrives to rescue them from a squad of Dark Troopers and take Grogu away to be trained. Will Mando and Grogu's connection last? Or will the events of the Mandalorian-Jedi War repeat themselves once again? Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about your favorite Star Wars histories are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.